Good evening and welcome to the Bhagavatam. Today we're reading from the 11th Canto, chapters number 7 and 8. We have a wonderful narrative here today for you. And we begin our scene at a powerful, a wonderful celestial gathering. So I want you to imagine a scene of unparalleled grandeur. This is the resplendent city of Dwarka, rich with all superior and wonderful opulences. And this becomes the stage for a gathering of alien beings, devas, the controllers of the universe. They're coming to earth to honor their master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. So Shukadev begins the narrative like this. He says, Brahma sets off for Dwarka. So Dwarka is this incredibly wonderful place. This is the capital of Krishna. And it's an island in the middle of the ocean. And so the devas are coming to meet with Krishna here. The first person mentioned here is Brahma. And Brahma is accompanied by his own sons, as well as the devas, all of them, and the great Prajapatis, as well as Shiva, who is the bestower of all auspiciousness, of all good things to all living beings. And he too came surrounded by many ghostly creatures. So the scene unfolds with cosmic magnificence. The powerful Indra is also there, along with the Maruts, the Adityas, the Apsaras, the great sages and forefathers, and they all arrive at the city of Dwarka hoping to see Krishna. Now, by his transcendental form, Krishna, the Supreme Lord, had enchanted all human beings. His glories destroyed all contamination, meaning all impurities in the hearts of those who witnessed and heard about those glories. And his fame spread throughout the universe. In that resplendent city of Dwarka, rich with all superior opulences, the demigods beheld with unsatiated eyes the wonderful form of Sri Krishna. This word used here is very beautiful. Unsatiated eyes. Have you ever had the experience of being unsatiated? Like when you eat a lot of food, you get satiated, you feel full. When you see a beautiful sunset, after a while, you want to move on and do something else. It's beautiful, a beautiful flower. You look for a few moments and then you move on, right? But imagine the feeling of unsatiable beauty, that you just can't stop looking, that you just can't stop being fascinated. You just cannot take your eyes off that person. So these highest beings in the universe had come to see Krishna. And they showered him with flower garlands from the heavenly gardens, from the heavenly planets. There are heavenly planets, planets far more beautiful, more opulent, more incredible than anything we've seen on earth. The Vedas tell us that. And they had brought with them flower garlands from their heavenly gardens, incredible fragrances. And they offered them with their hearts overflowing with devotion. And then, as is done in the Vedic custom, they offered prayers. And these are some of the most beautiful prayers that were offered in all of Vedic literature. These demigods, the highest administrative powers in the universe, humbled themselves before Krishna and they said, "My dear Supreme Lord, advanced mystic yogis striving for liberation from severe bondage of material karma meditate with great devotion upon your lotus feet within their hearts. Dedicating our intelligence, senses, vital air, prana, vital air, mind, and power of speech to you, we bow down at your lotus feet." So here, unlike the yogi who meditates upon the Supreme Being within their heart, and has darshan of him within their heart. Here they're seeing him face to face. What would you do if you were seeing Krishna face to face? What would you say? How would you feel? What would you experience if you saw the most incredibly beautiful, wise, intelligent, powerful, supreme being of all who was standing right in front of you? The lesson to learn from here is that even the most powerful beings in creation recognize the need for surrender. In our daily struggles with work, relationships, personal challenges, we can learn from their example of dedication how to devote all our faculties, our intelligence, our mind, our senses, our speech to a higher purpose. So the Devas continued, O unconquerable Lord, unconquerable, Ajita is the word used here, Ajita. Jit means to win, and Ajita means one who cannot be defeated, one who cannot be conquered. And Krishna proved that through his entire time here. Nobody could defeat him. Nobody. The greatest of asuras, the greatest of demoniac entities tried to attack him. Couldn't be defeated. So, O unconquerable Lord, you engage your Maya, your illusory energy. This is the illusory energy that we live in, this world. You engage your illusory energy composed of the three modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, to unleash, maintain, and devastate the inconceivable manifest universe, all within yourself. So all of this that is happening within the universal form of God. Some people say, well, God is the universe. Or what they mean is some impersonal energy, but actually they're half true and half false. While God is the universe, it is in the universal form of God, in the universal body of God, that the entire cosmos lies. He expands himself to become the universe. So when you are talking of the universe, you think you're talking of something impersonal, but actually it's something extremely personal. As the supreme superintendent of Maya, of the illusory energy, you appear to be situated in the interaction of the modes of nature. However, you are never affected by material activities. In fact, you are directly engaged in your own eternal spiritual bliss. And thus you cannot be accused of any material infection. So there is nothing material about Krishna. His form, his attributes, nothing. There is nothing material about him. He is entirely 100% spiritual. And although he may appear in front of someone, that doesn't mean he has a material body. His body is entirely spiritual. His activities are entirely spiritual. Nothing he does is from a mundane perspective. So this text beautifully explains that Krishna is eternally busy, day and night, in his transcendental abode, relishing the inconceivable loving devotion of his innumerable associates. So remember this again. Where is Krishna? In his eternal transcendental abode. Yes, from there he expands and comes into the various universes at different times to exhibit his pastimes in Leela. But that is the traveling roadshow, where he comes and shows us what it's like to be in the spiritual world with him. But he's always in the spiritual world. He is eternally there. And so in that spiritual realm, he is always having inconceivable transcendental activities. The Supreme Lord is being embraced and is embracing his innumerable associates. He is being embraced and is embracing his innumerable associates. He is joking and is hearing the joking of his loved ones. He is walking through forests full of fruits and flowers, playing in the nectarian river Yamuna, and taking part in his confidential, transcendental, loving affairs with the cowherd girls of Vrindavan. So what is it like to be in the spiritual world? It is pleasurable. It is blissful. It is absolutely magical. But the difference is We want to have that magical love affair, that magical life, alone, separate from God. He wants us to have that with Him. He who loves us wants to enjoy with us. We who do not want to be with Him want to be separate from Him. Just like kids want to be away from their parents. They want to go and live in their own home. They want to live far, far away sometimes. We're like that. And He's calling us home. Come back, enjoy with me. But if you want to be somewhere else, you're welcome. And therefore this world was created for us, so that we could be here and we could try to enjoy separate from Him. And if it works out for you, great. And if you're finding that it doesn't work, then He's calling you back home to enjoy with Him. So this teaches us that we too can remain spiritually centered even while engaged in worldly activities, just as Krishna is showing by his example. Krishna manages the entire cosmic manifestation while simultaneously enjoying eternal pastimes, showing us the possibility of perfect balance between duty and transcendence. The Devas then continue with their prayers, and they say, "O greatest of all, those whose consciousness is polluted by illusion." That's all of us. Our consciousness is polluted by illusion. We don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. We see things with our polluted consciousness. We see things according to our own distorted desires and needs and fears and mental concoctions. We do not see the world as it is. The world is beautiful, but we are caught up in our mind. We are caught up in our own misery, which is all mentally concocted. There is nothing except mentally concocted misery. And if you really dive deep into it, you may say, no, it's external. Or he did this, or she did that. The world is like this. This is happening. That is happening out there. And therefore I am unhappy. No, no. A truly enlightened being, a truly awakened being, knows that this is all part of the illusion. And they are not bewildered by it. They are able to recognize that the eternal thing, which is peaceful and calm and steady, is always that way. And it is within them. And it is the very fabric of which this universe is created. And yet there's so much drama going on outside. But that drama is not part of reality. That drama is part of the illusion. So the Devas say, "O greatest of all, those whose consciousness is polluted by illusion cannot purify themselves merely by ordinary worship." So you cannot be purified merely by ordinary worship or study of scripture, like the Vedas, or by charity, or by austerity, or by performing ritual activities. However, those pure souls who have developed a powerful, transcendental faith in your glories achieve a purified state of existence that can never be attained by those lacking such faith. This really just sums it all up. The need for faith, Adho Shraddha. In the beginning, there must be some faith. But some people think faith is everything, and faith is all there is, and faith is all you need. No, it's not enough. Adho Shraddha Tatha Sadhu Sangha. So first there must be faith, yes, and then you associate with sadhus, people who are on the path, people who are advanced more than you are. Tatha Bhajana Kriya. Then you begin the spiritual practices. Then comes Nishtha, firm faith. And then from Nishtha comes Ruchi. Then you develop a taste. What seemed difficult in the beginning, what seemed like, hard work, the spiritual practices, reading, chanting, worshipping, etc., now becomes sweet and pleasurable. Now it becomes automatic. Now you don't want to stop. So all of these prayers speak directly to our modern spiritual seeking. It's not enough to go through the motions of religious practice. What transforms us is developing genuine faith and connection with the divine, with God, through understanding His transcendental nature. So they continue then. Great sages desiring the highest benefit in life always cherish your lotus feet within their hearts, which are melted by love for you. What is that? They always cherish, great sages, who desiring the highest benefit in life always cherish your lotus feet within their hearts, which are melted, their hearts are melted by love for you. Similarly, your self-controlled devotees, those who have controlled them, see, what is taking us away from God? It is our uncontrolled senses, our uncontrolled mind, our uncontrolled desires. All of that is distracting us. All of that is taking us away from God. So he says, yes, your self-controlled devotees who desire to cross beyond the material kingdom of heaven, who don't even want heavenly pleasures, who don't even want heavenly opulences, right? They only want you. They only want Krishna. They want to worship your lotus feet in the morning, at noon, and in the evening. Thus they meditate upon you. Your lotus feet are just like a blazing fire that burns to ashes all the inauspicious desires for material sense gratification. So we all want to gratify our senses. We want to enjoy. We want pleasure. And Krishna is saying, there is none to be found here any more than there is water in the desert. It looks like water is there in the mirage. It looks like there's water, but there is none. It's an illusion. The real water is not to be found in the desert, it's to be found in the lake or the river. That's where you'll find the water that you can drink, not even in the ocean. So, and then they say something very touching. They say, "Oh Almighty Lord, oh Krishna, you are so kind to your servants that you have accepted the withered flower garland that we placed on your chest. Since the goddess of fortune Lakshmi resides on your chest, this is her abode. Yeah, his wife, his eternal beloved Lakshmi, goddess of fortune, makes her abode on his chest. She will undoubtedly become agitated, like a jealous co-wife, upon seeing your offering also seeing our offering also dwelling there. She will not like the fact that we have placed a garland on you." They're just speaking in metaphorical terms. "Yet you are so merciful that you neglect her and accept our offering as most excellent worship. O merciful one, may your lotus feet always act as a blazing fire to consume the inauspicious desires within our hearts." What is an inauspicious desire? Any desire that takes you away from God is an inauspicious desire. Any desire that is centered around aham, around me, my pleasure, what I want. But anything that is centered around what you want, Krishna, what you want, God, what is centered around your will, thy will instead of my will. When it is around my will, it is based upon my desires, my ego, my mind, my senses, my pleasure. And when it is the same thing, it could be a car, it could be a house, it could be food. When it is around pleasing Krishna, when it is for his pleasure, then it becomes transformed and becomes transcendental. And then it becomes spiritual. So the difference between material and spiritual is only this very simple shift. When I see everything in relation to God and for his pleasure, that is spiritual and transcendental. And when I see things in relation to me and to myself and to my ego and to my separateness from God, then that makes it material. It's as simple as that. Then you see things in their true reality, that they are all, everything you desire is connected to God. Your house is his body is his, the food you eat is his, everything is his. Nothing could exist without him. So when you put things in the right perspective, you will also enjoy and he will also enjoy. You will enjoy with him. Together you will enjoy everything. But when you enjoy separate from him, then you deal with the karma. You deal with the consequences. You deal with what it does and how it gradually takes you away from Krishna. So all of this shows us Krishna's incredible compassion. He accepts even our imperfect offerings with love, preferring them to the worship even of Lakshmi, or goddess of fortune herself. In our daily spiritual practice, we can take heart that our sincere but imperfect efforts are received with divine appreciation. So now Brahma says, my dear Krishna, my dear Supreme Lord, previously we requested you, this was the scene, we requested you to remove the burden of the earth. O unlimited being, that request has certainly been fulfilled. So they had requested Krishna to come. They had gone and prayed to Vishnu that please come. The earth is in great trouble. There are many asuras, demonic beings, who are ruling the earth and creating havoc on earth. Please come and save the earth. We need you to come because none of us is able to do it. Even the great Brahma was not able to do it. So they called on Vishnu. And now that Krishna had done all that, the battle of Kurukshetra had happened, the asuras had been killed, the demonic entities who were creating havoc had all been destroyed. They came and said, Brahma came and said, it's time. It's time. You've done what you promised us you would do, that you would remove the burden of the earth, which we had requested. And that request has been fulfilled. So then Krishna replied, O Lord of the demigods, of the Devas, Brahma, I understand your prayers and request. Having removed the burden of the earth, I have executed everything that was required on my behalf. But then Krishna revealed a deeper truth. He said, the Yadava dynasty, my own family, in which I appeared, became greatly magnified in opulence, especially in their physical strength and courage, to the extent that they threatened to devour the whole world. So this happens when you are in association with that Supreme Being. You become fearless. You become extremely powerful. You can transform the whole world or devour it or destroy it. So he was fearful. Krishna was fearful for his own family members. So he says, therefore I have stopped them, just as the shore holds back the great ocean. The shore holds back the ocean, right? So Krishna has put a block onto his family members. He was seeing them starting to get more arrogant, becoming, as their opulence grew, their physical strength, their courage, their wealth, all of that, they were becoming an unstoppable force. So this teaches us something about divine balance. Even good things, when excessive, can become destructive. Krishna's own family, blessed with divine power, needed to be checked. In our lives, we must recognize when our strengths, our ambition, our intelligence, and even our spiritual practices might become sources of pride or harm. Krishna continued, if I were to leave this world without withdrawing the overly proud members of my family, the whole world would be destroyed by the deluge of their unlimited expansion. Now, due to the Brahmins' curse, so there has been a curse. There's these Brahmins. Krishna had set the whole thing up. There are these Brahmins who are now cursed. Krishna's family, the Yadus, they would all be annihilated. Krishna doesn't directly do these things. It's all done indirectly. It's all part of the Leela, the pastimes. So due to the Brahmin's curse, the annihilation of my family has already begun. When this annihilation is finished and I am en route to Vaikuntha, to the spiritual world, I will pay a small visit to your abode, he says to Brahma. I will pay a small visit to your abode. Brahma then fell down in obeisances. Fell down meaning he bowed down in flat like a rod and paid obeisances, along with all the demigods. And then the great Brahma returned to his personal abode. Now, Krishna observed at that point that tremendous disturbances were taking place in the holy city of Dwarka. Something big was about to happen. Again, this is all part of his plan. And so he addressed the senior members of his family, of the Yadu dynasty. He says, our dynasty has been cursed by the Brahmins. Such a curse is impossible to counteract. But that's not true. Krishna could have counteracted. He just didn't want to. And so he's telling his family members, great disturbances are appearing everywhere around us. There are omens that are showing that something terrible is about to happen. We must not remain any longer in this place, in Dwarka, if we wish to keep our lives intact. Let us go this very day to that most pious place, Prabhas. We have no time to delay. Thus advised by Krishna, the Yadavas made up their minds to go to Prabhas and yoked their horses to their chariots. Now at this point, the scene shifts to Krishna's intimate conversation with Uddhava. Uddhava is his great devotee, his great friend, Krishna's most intimate friend in Dwarka. And this dialogue is just really mind-blowing. It's often been called the Uddhav Gita. Just like there was the Bhagavad Gita spoken before this, now there is the Uddhav Gita. And this is what is starting now. It has tremendous, powerful lessons, and it takes it much further than the original Bhagavad Gita spoken to Arjuna. So listen carefully. So Uddhava was constantly faithful follower of Krishna, friend, follower, all of that. He approached Krishna in a private place and he bowed down with his head. And with folded hands he said, "O dear Supreme God among all the Devas, real piety is invoked simply by hearing and chanting your transcendental glories. It appears that you will now withdraw your dynasty, and thus you yourself will finally give up your pastimes within this universe. You are the supreme controller and the master of all mystic power." See, Uddhava, being Krishna's friend, knows his true nature, Krishna's true nature. And he knows who Krishna is. Whereas in Vrindavan, all his friends did not know Krishna's true nature, did not know the glory of who Krishna is. They just loved him because he was so adorable. And that was all. And so their feelings were more heartfelt. But Uddhava has more of awe and reverence in his approach to Krishna. So Uddhava continues, "Although you are fully capable of counteracting the Brahmin's curse against your dynasty, you are not doing so, and your disappearance is therefore imminent. O Keshava, my dear master, I cannot tolerate giving up your lotus feet, even for a fraction of a moment. I urge you to take me along with you to your abode." So he knows Krishna is going back to the spiritual world. Tadgatva na nivartante, that one who goes there never comes back to this material world. "Oh, my dear Krishna, your pastimes are supremely auspicious for mankind and are an intoxicating nectar for the ears. Tasting such pastimes, people forget their desires for other things." Such a lovely point here. How supremely auspicious these pastimes are. What you're hearing in the Bhagavatam, the pastimes of Krishna are supremely, if there is an auspicious thing, is something that is favorable, good for you. You know, you think in terms of something that is really, people talk of good luck or good luck charm, or they talk about something that makes good things happen. Well, the most auspicious thing is to hear about Krishna. Why? Because it's intoxicating nectar for the ears, meaning not just the physical ears, but for the soul, the ears of the soul. Your soul has been longing to hear these wonderful pastimes. Only spirit can satisfy spirit. And since you are a spiritual being, nothing material can satisfy you. Only spirit can satisfy spirit. And therefore, the ultimate spirit, the supreme Godhead, Krishna, is the greatest treasure for our soul. Then he says, tasting such pastimes, people forget their desires for other things. And this is exactly what happens. The more you dive into hearing about Krishna, chanting his name, associating with his devotees, the more you begin to forget your desire for other things. Prabhupada calls this the higher taste. That when you get a higher taste, then you let go the lower taste. When you get something better, you give up something worse. When a child grows up and they now have their own house, they don't need the dollhouse anymore. They've got a full-fledged house to live in. When they grow up, they have a proper car to drive. They don't need the toy car anymore. Well, you can always look at it and keep it around. That's fine. But I think you get what I mean. So people, tasting such pastimes, people forget their desires for other things. You are the Supreme Soul, and thus you are most dear to us. We are your devotees, and how can we possibly live without you even for a moment? Whether we are lying down, sitting, walking, standing, bathing, enjoying recreation, eating, or doing anything else, we are constantly engaged in your service. Simply by decorating ourselves with garlands, fragrant oils, clothes, and ornaments that you have already enjoyed, and by eating the remnants of your meals, We, your servants, will indeed conquer your illusory energy or Maya. If you notice here, devotees always refer to themselves as servants. To be a servant in this world is not a great thing, is not considered a good thing. It's considered low class. But to be a servant of the Supreme Lord, that is a great thing. To be the servant of the greatest being is the greatest position to have. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, that is our Swarup. Swarup means our original position as a soul. We are all servants of God. Jivera Swarup Hoy. The Jiva, that is the living entity, the soul's Swarup, its original nature. Nitya Krishna Das. We are eternally servants of Krishna. All of us, every single one of us. We have forgotten that. And now we are serving our family, we're serving our country, we're serving our senses, we're serving our mind, but we are not serving God. We're not serving Krishna. So then Krishna responds in a very compassionate way. He says, my dear Uddhava, you should not remain here on earth once I have left this world. You are sinless. But in the days to come, the Kali Yuga will begin, and the people will be addicted to all types of sinful activities. Therefore, do not stay here. This is a big lesson for us to take as well. We are in this world now, surrounded by people who are doing all kinds of sinful activities. This is getting worse day by day. And we should also take this instruction seriously, that it's time for us to get out of here, to go back to Godhead. Rather than despair, Krishna offers hope through spiritual practice. Krishna continues saying, now you should completely give up all attachment to your personal friends and relatives and fix your mind on me. See, the time has come. So fix your mind on me. Thus, being always conscious of me, you should observe all things with equal vision and wander throughout the earth. So detach yourself now from everything, from your possessions, from your family, from your friends, and become conscious of Krishna and begin to see him everywhere, in all things, everywhere, with equal vision. Not that one thing is greater than another. Not that a big house is better than a hut, or that gold is better than dirt, or that riches are better than poverty. No, that is dualistic thinking. Enter into the non-dual realm, where you see everything with equal vision. Everything is the same. People want non-duality, but they don't realize that is not something so easy. That is a practice. Whether it's heat or cold, whether it's good or bad situations, doesn't matter. This isn't about becoming cold or uncaring, but about developing spiritual equilibrium. When we are centered in divine consciousness, we can love more purely, serve more effectively, and remain peaceful amid chaos. Krishna continues, the material universe you perceive through your mind, speech, senses, ears, and other senses is an illusory creation that one imagines to be real due to the influence of Maya, the illusory energy. In fact, you should know that all of the objects of the material senses are temporary. It means everything you see, hear, touch is temporary. One whose consciousness is bewildered by illusion perceives many differences in value and meaning among different objects. See, you think certain things are more powerful, more valuable than other things. This is the nature of illusion. Thus, one engages constantly in the platform of material good and evil. So good things and bad things. And is bound by such conceptions. Absorbed in material duality, such a person contemplates the performance of compulsory duties. Now, I need to do this and I need to not do that. Contemplates the performance of compulsory duties, non-performance of such duties, and the performance of forbidden activities. So you're always caught up between this. This is my duty, this is what I need to do, this I should not do, and this is totally forbidden. I should absolutely not do that. We're trying to constantly juggle this. Therefore, bringing all your senses under control and subduing the mind, you should see the entire world as situated within the self, who is expanded everywhere. And you should see this individual self within me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he is the Supreme Self. And he is expanded everywhere. Not that I am expanded everywhere, not that you are expanded everywhere. He is expanded. This is all his creation, and this is all his. He's everywhere, in everything. So he says, then see me everywhere. You will see the entire world as situated within me, who am expanded everywhere. Being fully endowed with conclusive knowledge of the Vedas and having realized the ultimate purpose of such knowledge in practice, you will be able to perceive the pure self, and thus your mind will be satisfied. At that time, you will become dear to all living beings, and you will never be hampered by any disturbance in life. So here's the fruit. You will become dear to all living beings, the animals, the humans, all living beings. And you will never be hampered by any disturbance in life. So people think they're spiritually advanced or advancing, but these are the symptoms. Be clear. This is what it looks like. One who is the kind well-wisher of all living beings. So not someone who says, oh, I'm spiritual, but I eat meat also. You can't be spiritual and eat meat. I'm sorry. You can't be killing other living entities for your pleasure, your enjoyment, your tongue, and then call yourself spiritual. No. This is a monstrosity. This is horrible, right? There is no compassion. There is no kindness in this. There is no sense of spirituality here. You do not understand what is spirit in the first place. So one who is the kind well-wisher of all living beings, who is peaceful and firmly fixed in knowledge and realization, sees me within all things. Such a person never falls down into the cycle of birth and death. And now we begin. Krishna goes into this beautiful story about the 24 gurus, about wisdom from nature. So this narrative now takes a beautiful turn. So he talks about the story of King Yadu and his meeting with an Avadhūta. An Avadhūta is a liberated sage. Like a person who has become so free, so liberated, they don't care about anything in the world. They don't care about appearances. They don't care about what they look. They don't care about what they're wearing. They're just in ecstasy and in trance. Wherever they go, they're just in that state. You don't see them in the Western world. You do find some in India. So what he's doing now is he's going to share something really amazing. Maharaj Yadu, King Yadu, once observed a certain Brahmin in Avadhūta. Avadhūta, you understood now? Who appeared to be quite young and learned. He was wandering about fearlessly. Being himself most learned in spiritual science, the king took the opportunity and inquired from this person because he was perplexed. The king was himself very learned in spirituality. He said, "O Brahmin, I see that you are not engaged in any practical religious activity, and yet you have acquired a most expert understanding of all things and all people within this world. Kindly tell me, sir, how did you acquire this extraordinary intelligence? And why is it that you are traveling throughout the world behaving as if you were a child?" Hear this carefully. You're traveling freely throughout the world. It means nothing bothers him anymore. And you're behaving as if you're a child, as if you're just crazy. That's what most people would say. Although all people within the material world are burning in the great forest of the fire of lust and greed, you remain free and are not burned by that fire. You are just like an elephant who takes shelter from a forest fire by standing within the river, within the water of the great river Ganges. So having asked this question, the Avadhūta now replies. He says, "My dear king, with my intelligence I have taken shelter of many spiritual masters, many gurus. And having gained transcendental understanding from them, I now wander about the earth in a liberated condition." So he talks about who he has learned all this from. He says, "A sober person, even when harassed by other living beings, should understand that his aggressors are acting helplessly under the control of the energies of God. And thus he should never be distracted from progress on his own path. You know, sometimes somebody mistreats you, somebody treats you in an unfair way, somebody does something that is harmful or hurtful to you. And we get very worked up and very upset. We might get angry, or we might feel like we are victimized. But all of that is happening not because this is something meant to hurt us, but because there is some deep wisdom for us to gain from here. It is all happening under the direction of the divine, of God. It makes no sense to us. But you see, if you had God's vision, you would see that the human body might suffer, but the soul, He's interested in that. And if it takes some kind of difficulty or challenge or suffering, and in that process the soul grows and evolves, then it's all worth it. He says, one should never be distracted from progress on his path, no matter what is happening in your life, no matter what difficulty you're going through, no matter what somebody is saying or doing. One should not be detracted or distracted from the progress on his own path. This rule I have learned from the earth. So he's now starting to tell you of his different teachers. The first of the ones he talks about is the earth. The earth is the first of his teachers. Like the earth that bears all treatment without complaint, we learn to remain steady regardless of how others treat us. In our daily interactions with difficult people, we can remember that everyone is under the influence of time, of karma, and their own conditioning. Second guru he talks about, the second teacher that he talks about, is when he says, a saintly person should learn from the mountain. So first was the earth, now he talks about the mountain, his lessons from the mountain. We should learn from the mountain to devote all our efforts to the service of others and make the welfare of others the sole reason for our existence. Similarly, as the disciple of the tree, so he refers to himself as the disciple of the earth, the mountain, the tree. Similarly, as the disciple of the tree, one should learn to dedicate himself to others. That's what the tree does, right? Mountains provide shelter, rivers, and resources for all living beings. Trees give fruits and shade, and even sacrifice their bodies for others' welfare. This teaches us that the highest life is one of service, not self-centered accumulation. He then talks about his next guru. A learned sage should take his satisfaction in the simple maintenance of his existence and should not seek satisfaction through gratifying the material senses. In other words, one should care for the material body in such a way that one's higher knowledge is not destroyed, and so that one's speech and mind are not deviated from self-realization. So it's okay to take care of your body, but remember, your purpose of life is self-realization, is to go for higher knowledge, is to advance yourself spiritually. Nothing should come in the way of that. Especially this pursuit of sense enjoyment, that's the biggest obstacle. Our desires to enjoy in this world is the biggest obstacle. So this whole bit that he speaks about speaks directly to our consumer culture. True satisfaction comes not from accumulating pleasures or stories or experiences, but from maintaining our spiritual focus while caring for genuine needs. Then he talks about the next guru, the wind. Even a transcendentalist is surrounded by innumerable material objects. So a spiritual seeker, a spiritual transcendentalist is surrounded by innumerable material objects which possess good and bad qualities. However, one who has transcended material good and evil should not become entangled even when in contact with material objects. Rather, he should act like the wind. Although a self-realized soul may live in various material bodies while in this world, experiencing their various qualities and functions, he is never entangled, just as the wind which carries various aromas does not actually mix with them. It's a great example that we can learn from. The wind carries the fragrance of flowers and the stench of garbage with equal detachment. Similarly, a spiritually realized person can interact with all types of people and situations without becoming contaminated or attached. See, a lot of people talk about how negative energies affect them. Negative people affect them. Toxic people affect them. But here he says, become like the wind. It carries the aroma even of the garbage and of the flowers, but is unaffected by or contaminated by any of them. Because it's not holding on to that fragrance. It's not attached to that. It's not resisting that. It's not saying I should not be around toxic people or toxic situations or whatever word you give it. He's indifferent to that. He's neither looking at good nor evil. He's neither trying to be around good people nor evil people. He's not attached to either. He's indifferent to both. None of this matters. Then he talks about his next guru, the sky. And then he says, a thoughtful sage, even while living within a material body, should understand himself to be pure spirit soul. We're all pure spirit soul. Similarly, one should see that the spirit soul enters within all forms of life, both moving and non-moving, and that the individual souls are thus all-pervading. The sage should further observe that the Supreme Godhead is the super soul, the Paramatma within everyone's heart, is simultaneously present within all things. Both the individual soul and the super soul cannot be understood by comparing them to the nature, or can be understood, by comparing them to the nature of the sky. And what does the sky do? The sky extends everywhere, and everything rests within the sky. But the sky does not mix with anything, nor can it be divided by anything. Very beautiful example. The sky extends everywhere. Everything rests within the sky. But the sky does not mix with anything, nor can it be divided by anything. The same thing is said by Krishna. Everything rests upon me. I am in everything, and yet I am separate from it all. This profound teaching helps us understand our spiritual identity. Like the sky that contains all clouds, storms, and weather, but remains unchanged, the soul remains pure despite all our bodily experiences. He then talks about his next guru, water. O king, a saintly person is just like water, because he is free from all contamination, gentle by nature, and by speaking creates a beautiful vibration like that of flowing water. Just by seeing, touching, or hearing such a saintly person, the living entity, we are purified, just as one is cleansed by contact with pure water. Thus a saintly person, just like a holy place, purifies all those who contact him, because he is always chants the glories of the Supreme Lord. So anyone who has come in contact with such a pure devotee knows how incredible the aura, the atmosphere, the environment around that person is. It's as if they're exuding something so sacred, so special, so beautiful, that it's unlike anything you've come across in the world. He says here that such a person is like going to a holy place, a place which purifies you, because just by making contact with such a person, you become purified. Why is it? Because this person is always chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord. He has become completely fixated on that divine being, on Krishna. The example is very amazing. Water naturally flows downward, serves all beings, and purifies everything it touches. A saintly person similarly serves all with humility and has a purifying effect on everyone they meet. He then talks about his next guru, fire. And he says, saintly persons become powerful by execution of austerities. Their consciousness is unshakable, because they do not try to enjoy anything within the material world. Such naturally liberated sages accept foodstuffs that are offered to them by destiny, and if by chance they happen to eat contaminated food, they are not affected, just like fire which burns up contaminated substances that are offered to it. A saintly person, just like fire, sometimes appears in a concealed form, and at other times reveals himself. So sometimes they are hidden. just like this person who the king is talking to, this Avadhūta. He's concealed his true nature. He's not walking around in some fancy robes and not appearing like some guru, but his wisdom is immense. So a saintly person, just like fire, sometimes appears in a concealed form and other times reveals himself. See, fire can sometimes be hidden, like within wood, you can say there is fire, because the moment fire touches that wood, it ignites itself into fire. For the welfare of the conditioned souls who desire real happiness, a saintly person may accept the position of guru or spiritual master. And thus, like fire, he burns to ashes all the past and future sinful reactions, karma of his worshippers by mercifully accepting their offerings. This is the most amazing thing about the guru, an advanced spiritual being. They accept the disciples' karma and burn it to ashes, releasing it back into God. Fire transforms everything it touches, accepting all offerings, and yet it remains pure. Similarly, advanced souls can accept service from others while purifying them through spiritual association. He then talks about his next guru, the moon. And he says, the various phases of one's material life, beginning with birth and culminating in death, are all properties of the body and do not affect the soul. Just as the apparent waxing and waning of the moon does not affect the moon itself, such changes are enforced by the imperceptible movements of time. So one can notice from this verse, the moon appears to change phases, but the moon itself remains constant. Similarly, our bodies age and change, but the soul within remains eternal and unchanging. This gives us perspective on the temporary nature of all material conditions. He then talks about his next guru, the sun. Just as the sun evaporates large quantities of water by its potent rays and later returns the water to the earth in the form of rain, similarly, a saintly person accepts all types of material objects with his material senses, and at the appropriate time when the proper person has approached him to request them, he returns such material objects. Meaning, you may go to such a person, an advanced spiritual person, and you may give him some gift. He may keep it for a little while, but he has no attachment to it. Next time someone comes around, he says, here, why don't you have this? He's never holding on to anything. Just as the sun evaporates the water and then at the right time releases it back into the earth. Thus, both in accepting and giving up the objects of the senses, such a person is not entangled. Even when reflected in various objects, the sun is never divided, nor does it merge into its reflection. Only those with dull brains would consider the sun in this way. Similarly, although the soul is reflected through different material bodies, the soul remains undivided and non-material. It's a very powerful lesson here. We have been through many bodies, even in this life, from childhood to youth to old age. But we have remained same. The soul never got divided, the soul never got fragmented, and it never became material. It always remained spiritual. It was always the witness and was always waiting for us to reconnect with it. So the sun demonstrates perfect ecological balance, taking water through evaporation, giving it back as rain. This teaches us about balanced receiving and giving in our material dealings. And now we come to one of the most touching aspects of this story. He now talks about the pigeon. He talks about the danger of excessive attachment. So this is the most detailed and cautionary tale of the 24 gurus. He says, one should never indulge in excessive affection or concern for anyone or anything. Excessive affection or concern for anyone or anything. Otherwise, one will have to experience great suffering, just like the foolish pigeon. So then he tells you the story of the pigeon. There was once a pigeon who lived in the forest along with his wife. He had built a nest within a tree, and he lived there for several years in her company. The two pigeons were very much devoted to their household duties, their hearts being tied together by sentimental affection. They were each attracted by the other's glances, bodily features, and states of mind. Thus, they were completely bound each other in affection. Think about how this mirrors in our modern relationships, where couples become so absorbed in each other that they lose sight of individual spiritual development and higher purposes. Naively trusting in the future, they carried out their acts of resting, sitting, walking, standing, conversing, playing, eating, and so on and so forth as a loving couple among the trees of the forest. Whenever she desired anything, the she-pigeon would flatteringly cajole her husband, and he in turn would gratify her by faithfully doing whatever she wanted, even with great personal difficulty. Thus he could not control his senses in her association. So this is teaching us about the difference between love and attachment. True love enhances spiritual growth, while attachment binds us to material expectations and anxieties. Then the female pigeon experienced her first pregnancy. When the time arrived, she delivered a number of eggs within the nest in the presence of her husband. When the time was ripe, baby pigeons with tender limbs and feathers, created by the inconceivable potencies of the Lord, were born from those eggs. The two pigeons became most affectionate to their children, took great pleasure in listening to their awkward chirping, which sounded very sweet to the parents. Thus, with love, they began to raise the little birds who were born to them. The parent birds became very joyful by observing the soft wings of their children, their chirping, their lovely innocent movements around the nest, and their attempts to jump up and fly. Seeing their children happy, the parents were also happy. This natural parental affection becomes problematic when it becomes the sole focus of our existence. So, their hearts bound to each other by affection, the foolish birds, completely bewildered by Maya, the illusory energy of Vishnu, continue to take care of their young offspring who had been born to them. One day, while both the mother and father were out finding food for the children, wanting to feed them properly, they wandered all over the forest for a long time. At that time, a certain hunter who happened to be wandering through the forest saw the young pigeons moving about near their nest. Spreading out his net, he captured them all. The pigeon and his wife were always anxious for the maintenance of their children, and they were wandering in the forest for that purpose. Having obtained proper food, they now returned to their nest. And when the female pigeon caught sight of her own children trapped within the hunter's net, she was overwhelmed with anguish, and crying out, she rushed toward them as they cried out to her in return. The female pigeon had always allowed herself to be bound by the ropes of intense maternal affection, and thus her mind was overwhelmed by anguish. Being in the grip of Maya, of the illusory energy, she completely forgot herself, and rushing forward to her helpless children, she was immediately bound in the hunter's net. Seeing his own children, who were more dear to him than life, fatally bound in the hunter's net, along with his dearmost wife, whom he considered equal in every way to himself, the poor male pigeon began to lament wretchedly, "Alas, just see how I am now destroyed. I am obviously a great fool, for I did not properly execute pious activities. I could not satisfy myself, nor could I fulfill the purpose of life. My dear family, which was the basis of my existence, is now hopelessly ruined. My wife and I were an ideal match. She was always faithful to me and accepted me as her worshipable deity. But now, seeing her children lost and her home empty, she has left me behind and gone to heaven with our saintly children. Now I am a wretched person living in an empty home. My wife is dead. My children are dead. Why should I possibly want to live? My heart is so pained by separation." So he's going through this whole anguish, right? The male pigeon. And then as he stared at his poor children trapped in the net and on the verge of death, struggling to free themselves, his mind went blank, and thus he himself fell into the hunter's net. The cruel hunter, having fulfilled his desire by capturing the head pigeon, his wife and all of their children, set off for his home. That's what hunters do. This whole story shows us how family can become the entire foundation of one's identity and purpose, making one vulnerable to complete devastation when family circumstances changed. So, the Avadhūta then continues. He says, in this way, one who is too attached to family life becomes disturbed at heart. Like the pigeon, he tries to find pleasure in mundane sexual attraction. Busily engaged in maintaining his own family, the miserly person is fated to suffer greatly along with all his family members. Keep in mind, this isn't a condemnation of family life, but a warning about making family the ultimate object of attachment, rather than seeing family relationships as opportunities for spiritual growth and service. This is a very important point. People become very attached to this body, to their partner, to their possessions, and to their family. And that then becomes the cause of these attachments, is what becomes the cause of great suffering. It is natural for us to be attached, but we have to be careful. The purpose of life for this body, for us, for our partner, for our children, is spiritual growth and service. The Avadhūta continued, the doors of liberation are opened wide to one who has achieved human life. But if a human being simply devotes himself to family life like the foolish bird in this story, then he is to be considered as one who has climbed to a high place only to trip and fall down. Now the Avadhūta continues talking about his learnings from his various other gurus. The next one he talks about is the python. And from the python he learned the art of being satisfied with whatever comes naturally, without making extra effort for sense gratification. It's very important to learn that. Instead of struggling, be satisfied with what comes naturally. Python waits peacefully, calmly, and when something comes, it strikes. From the sea, he learned to remain calm and undisturbed regardless of external circumstances. Just as the ocean remains peaceful despite rivers flowing into it. Then the moth. The moth taught him to avoid being attracted to destructive beauty. Just as the moth is fatally attracted to fire, we should avoid being mesmerized by material beauty that leads to spiritual destruction. Think about it. Most of the time people are chasing one form of beauty, one form of attractiveness or another. Most of the time that takes us away from our spirituality, makes us bewildered, makes us do things we shouldn't do. Sometimes a married person goes chasing after someone else and breaks up their marriage and their home and their family. All kinds of things happen when we do not control our senses. From the honeybee, he learned to take only what is necessary from the world, just as the bee takes only the nectar it needs from flowers without harming them. The honey thief taught him that hoarding wealth leads to trouble. Just as someone steals honey from the bee who has worked hard to collect it, those who accumulate excessive wealth invite thieves and problems. The elephant taught him how attachment to pleasure leads to bondage. Male elephants are captured by hunters using female elephants as bait, showing how sensual attraction can be our downfall. The deer taught him about the danger of becoming attached to beautiful sounds that distract from spiritual practice. Deer are hunted by the attractive sounds of the hunter's horn. From the fish, he learned that attachment to taste leads to being caught. Fish are caught by their attraction to the bait, just as we become bound by attachment to delicious food. From the prostitute Pingala, he learned about the futility of depending on others for happiness. When her customer didn't arrive, she realized that expecting fulfillment from others leads to disappointment. And ultimately, she found peace in self-reliance. The Kurara bird showed him that fighting over material possession leads to loss. The bird dropped its food while fighting with others and found peace only when it gave up the object of contention. From the child, he learned that natural joy and freedom from artificial social conventions. He observed that children are naturally happy and don't carry grudges or social pretenses. From the young girl, he learned how solitude and simplicity bring peace. He watched. From her bangles made noise when she worked, and she removed all but one, showing how reducing complications leads to tranquility. So she had a ton of bangles, and as she's working, they're making a lot of noise. So she took them all off, kept one. And that way she had a bangle, but at the same time, it wasn't banging with the others. And so reducing or simplifying our life leads to tranquility. The arrow maker taught him the power of concentration. Completely absorbed in his work, the arrow maker didn't notice a king's procession passing by, showing how focused attention leads to perfection. The serpent taught him the value of living alone. Snakes don't build homes, but are content with wherever they find shelter, teaching us about non-attachment to a place and possessions. From the spider, he learned that the world is both created from and withdrawn into the Supreme. Created from the Supreme, from God, and withdraws into God. Just as a spider creates its web from its own body and later on withdraws it, God creates and destroys the universe from his own energy. Finally, the wasp taught him about the power of consciousness. Whatever we constantly think about, we become. Whatever we constantly think about, we become. So if you think about someone's negative qualities, you become that. You start imbibing those qualities. That becomes your meditation. Whatever we constantly think about. Kant was constantly thinking about Krishna. So he eventually, Krishna killed him and he merged into the body of Krishna. He got liberation, mukti. So even if you think of God in a negative way, you become blessed. Watch, where is your mind going? What are you thinking about? What is your constant thought? Krishna says, wherever and whatever your mind is fixed upon at the time of leaving this body, to that state you will go. So wherever your consciousness has been absorbed, that will become the sum total of where you're at in your consciousness. And that is what will determine your next life. It will even determine all the things that happen in this life. That's what you will attract to yourself. Whatever we constantly think about, we become. A caterpillar constantly threatened by a wasp eventually transforms into a wasp, showing how our mental focus shapes our destiny. So as this drama unfolds, we see that the Supreme Lord's earthly mission, so just kind of concluding this point, that the Supreme Lord's earthly mission must come to an end now. But his teachings remain eternal. The instructions he gives to Uddhava and through him to all sincere seekers is to develop spiritual vision that can perceive the divine presence in all circumstances. The 24 gurus show us that wisdom is available everywhere if we have the consciousness, the awareness, the desire to perceive it. Wisdom is available everywhere. Each element of nature, each life situation, each relationship can become our teacher if we approach it with the right understanding. The pigeon story particularly resonates in our modern world, where family attachment often becomes the sole meaning of life. The teaching isn't to abandon family, but to love family members as souls on a spiritual journey, not as objects of our attachment, not as our possessions, not as my wife, my children. No, nothing is yours. But they are souls on a spiritual journey, and we can support them on that journey. And we can love them as part of God. When we see family relations as opportunities for service and spiritual growth rather than sources of personal gratification, we can love more purely and suffer less. So you can notice from this that the chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam offer us a complete spiritual roadmap. They show us how even the most elevated beings approach God with humility, and how spiritual knowledge transcends mere ritual, and how we can navigate the challenges of material existence while maintaining spiritual perspective. This knowledge is valid and meaningful for all times to come. Even in our current time of global uncertainty, the path to peace and fulfillment lies not in external arrangements, but in developing genuine spiritual consciousness. Whether we're dealing with family pressures, career challenges, societal chaos, these timeless teachings offer both practical wisdom and ultimate hope. All right. So I hope you enjoyed that. It's going to be more coming up. But I want you to do this as you face your own transitions and challenges. Remember Krishna's instruction to see the self in all beings, to see God in all beings, and all beings in God. Approaching each day with the devotion of the Devas, the wisdom of the Avadhūta, and the surrender of true spiritual seekers. In doing so, you will transform not just your own life, but you will contribute to the spiritual elevation of all those around you. All right, if there are any questions, I'd love to take them up now. Anyone with any questions? Any observations? Any thoughts? Most welcome. All right, then, if not, I'll see you next time. I wish you a wonderful evening. Hare Krishna.